What's up, guys? Welcome back to Newswave. So right now, it kind of feels like people are hanging out, just sort of waiting for Sony to make some sort of announcement with all these rumors going around. But we did still have gaming news yesterday, which does include a big-time opening week for Kirby and the Forgotten Land, as well as the potential for a massive sequel heading to the PlayStation. Oh, and if you're someone who's been waiting for these video cards to not only come back in stock, but also maybe come down in price a bit, I might have some good news for you. Guys, if you enjoy these videos, make sure that like button helps out a ton. And if you're new here to the Spawnwave channel, make sure you subscribe down below and ring that notification bell so you can keep up to date with all the uploads here on the channel. And we're gonna start today with a bit of an update to Chrono Remaster, specifically the physical copy. We were kind of waiting for the Play Asia listing to go up, and it is now live, which you can see here. Currently at a price of $39.99. Of course, they're still shipping on top of that, so like $5 to $10, depending on where you are in the world and all of this. Now, we can see the box art here. To my understanding, this is still just a placeholder box art, although that is kind of the banner that's being shown on the different storefronts, so it wouldn't shock me if this is what you end up getting with the box itself. It is slated for April 26th, as we had mentioned before, so keep in mind a week or two on top of that for shipping. You'd be getting this one about a month after it releases on the digital storefronts. It does say English next to the Chrono Cross, the Radical Dreamers edition, but just as a reminder, it does also include Japanese, Spanish, French, German, and Italian languages. I will be picking this physical copy up myself, as I have already played through this on the PS1, yes, back in the day, and I would like to revisit it, but I'd also like to have it physically, especially on a cartridge. I think that's pretty cool to be able to pick up Chrono Cross with Radical Dreamers decades later physically. Also, real quick, just in case you didn't feel old today, we had a birthday over the weekend. On March 27th, the 3DS turned 11 years old. That's right, it came out March 27th, 2011. And I remember the build up to the 3DS. It was really impressive when they first showed it off at E3. And I remember they showed some of the visuals. I think it was for Kid Icarus, and people thought it was a Wii game that they were showing off. They're like, no, this is the new DS system, and it was 3D. And then it comes out at $250, and I think people forget about the pricing when it came out was right next to like the Vita's pricing, and it didn't go over too well for Nintendo. They cut the price down to like $170 and give people Game Boy Advance games, that ambassador program, to kind of make up for it. But what a run for basically Nintendo's last true handheld, because the Switch being a hybrid system, obviously merging their home console and handheld together, it's still a really good system and still even worth picking up now. The prices have gone up actually considerably on the system. You wouldn't expect it to be as high as it is, being 11 years old, but I think that just speaks to the system itself as well as the library of games, that it's just it's staggering when you really think about the DS games being involved with that. And the other part about this is now we're talking about the digital storefront getting shut down, and you think about those physical games going up in price as well. So if you've been putting it off, you know what? Hey, it's been 11 years. Now might be a good time to start picking the system up with some games. Oh, and we did get an update for Temtem on the Switch, which, I have to be honest, I kind of forgot about Temtem in the first place. I mean, it came out obviously on PC, and it's on like the PlayStation 5 and all of this, but they had been talking about a Switch version for a long time, like years. Well, we did have this update over on their website. They say, we're excited to tell you that we've sent the first preemptive build to Nintendo for Switch certification. If you're familiar with game development, or you've dropped by our Discord server while we were talking about it, certification is a series of processes where the platform holder reviews our game and evaluates its current status to check its adequacy to release on said platform. They mentioned this is the first step to undergo further certification in the future and all of this, but it at least sounds like they're getting close to releasing some form of Temtem on the Switch. I mean, that is a platform it makes sense on, considering it is, I mean, it's basically a Pokemon game, right? Their take on it. So I haven't really followed up much with Temtem since it initially came out, but if you have been following it, let me know how the game has been, at least with some of the recent updates. And guys, with some of the quick news out of the way, let's get into the bigger stuff. Let's start right away with Kirby and the Forgotten Land, and the first indication around how it's sold since it released on Friday, this being the UK sales charts, and we'll start with the top 10, and yep, there it is at the top. Kirby and the Forgotten Land coming in at number 1. Then we have Tiny Tina's Wonderlands at 2, Elden Ring at 3, Gran Turismo 7, Pokemon Legends Arceus, FIFA 22, New Super Mario Bros. U Deluxe, WWE 2K22, Horizon Forbidden West, and then Mario Kart 8 Deluxe. Now overall, Kirby did really well, sold 2.5 times the number of copies in its first week as the previous best Kirby game, which was Kirby Star Allies. Now remember, these are all physical copies sold, so it doesn't include any of the digital sales, but I mean, the fact that we've seen digital sales continue to climb versus the physical sales. So like 2.5 times better in terms of physical sales in the UK over Kirby Star Allies. I'd say that's a pretty good opening for Kirby's first 3D game. Unfortunately, the same can't really be said about Tiny Tina's Wonderlands. The physical sales for this one was 10% of what Borderlands 3 was able to do when it came out in 2019. This is a spin-off, and as I just mentioned with digital sales, I know those have really been climbing, especially on the PlayStation and the Xbox. Yeah, not the best opening there, but again, a spin-off, so we'll see how it continues as we go along. The one that I was a little surprised about here is that Ghostwire Tokyo was nowhere to be found in the top 10. It came in at number 11, so it just missed out on the top 10, but according to GamesIndustry.biz, this is a pretty weak launch overall when it came to retail. In fact, when you compare Ghostwire Tokyo to Tango's last release, that being Evil Within 2, Ghostwire sold 80% lower. So yeah, not a great debut there, at least in the UK when it comes to physical sales for Ghostwire Tokyo. But as for Kirby, this is a great start, jumping up 2.5 times over what we saw with Kirby Star Allies, which actually sold pretty well in the grand scheme of things with Kirby games. I think the best-selling Kirby game is still the one that originally released back on the Game Boy, if I'm not mistaken. Kirby Star Allies still sold over 3 million copies. I really believe that Forgotten Land will easily outsell that. Like, I'm looking at this as potentially 5, 6, 7 million. People seem really happy with this game, and I'm towards the end of it. I'm like the last world, and I did start to go back and do some of the challenges just to collect those stars that you use to then upgrade your different powers. And I mean, I see the hook in this game, even if the main story part or the main path through the game isn't super long. All of the side stuff that you do really starts to rack up the hours, and it's just a very satisfying game to go through because while it's not like a typically hard game, not a punishing game, it's very creative and fun because of that. So I'm having a blast with the game, and I get it. I see why people are enjoying this one so much. And yeah, I hope it ends up being the best-selling Kirby game overall. Next up, let's talk about a massive sequel that could be heading to the PlayStation now. I mean, we got a trademark, so you know what that means. It might as well just go ahead and pencil in another 2 or 3 games in the series. And that's Knack. Yeah, take a look at this. This was posted up by Gamatsu. Sony Interactive Entertainment filed a trademark for Knack on March 17th. In Japan. We can see it right here. And I mean, they trademarked it for everything. I mean, we're talking like electronic circuits, magnetic discs, all kinds of marketing, downloadable or installable games, all these different things. And it's basically for anything that they can sell, that they can put Knack on. There you go. They did a trademark for it. And I know it's trademark. I'm obviously playing up to the whole meme of Knack online because Knack 3 has to happen, right? Well, if you think about it, the original Knack mostly existed as a tech demo. They showed off what the PS4 could do with that original title. They did a Knack 2 at least. That was, what, 2017? And then ever since then, it's always been like, oh, Knack 3, it's going to happen at some point. And then Japan Studios basically dissolved. They formed Team Asobi. I think they're mostly working on something with Astrobot because that is actually a good mascot for Sony, and it would make sense to invest money in that franchise since every PS5 that ships right now has an Astro game on it, so people are at least, they at least recognize that mascot. Even if you're not playing the game, it's legitimately right there on your home screen when you start the PS5 up. So I would look at this mostly as just business as usual, re-upping trademarks to make sure you don't lose them or any of the marketing stuff. I wouldn't mind them taking a shot at a Knack 3, mostly because it would just be creative on their part, something different from what people have deemed the Sony formula with more of these cinematic action adventure over-the-shoulder style games. But I do believe that eventually Team Asobi will show something off that'll kind of break away from that trend. I think it's going to be an Astrobot game of some kind, and I hope it is a larger, I guess you say AAA budget style platformer with Astro, because what they did with Astro's playroom on, I'm sure, a much lower budget was pretty fun. So them getting the treatment of here's millions and millions of dollars, make a really good platforming Astro game that's not necessarily just tied to VR, because while Astro Bot for VR was good, I would like to see Astros get a full-fledged game that could really push that series into the mainstream. So sure, Knack, I'm never going to write it off because it's always possible, at least for the meme, but at this point, I would look towards Team Asobi, that's basically the remnants of a Japan studio to work on something with Astro. Next up, let's talk about the world of video cards. Whether it's NVIDIA or AMD, you've probably noticed that prices are significantly higher than they should be, especially when you look at what MSRP is being quoted on these different websites from these brands like NVIDIA, and then you go over, you look at what it is on eBay, and you're like, wow, it's 2 or 3 times that amount. But something people have been noticing over the last month or so is that the prices have actually been steadily declining, and now, with some new information, it looks like we'd be heading towards almost a full price crash when it comes to these inflated prices. Take a look at this here. This was posted up by PC Gamer, saying with ASUS confirming to us that it is reducing MSRP aggressively, it means that actual retail pricing can now follow suit, hopefully soon. And it's not just in the cards nobody wants either, such as the RX 6500 XT, which has remained at or even below MSRP for much of its life. We're now seeing pricing coming down across a host of different GPUs. And this is something I expect to be happening over the next several months. In fact, I kind of think by holiday 2022, so heading into like November or December, I think prices will be back to where they're supposed to be now. They're still higher than what it was way back in the day with some of these different video cards like the GTX 580 or something, but I think it's going to get closer to what we see on stage when they announce, say, the 4000 series NVIDIA cards is rumored to be coming out this year, to what we actually pay sticker at like a Best Buy or something. In fact, I think we get to a point where these cards actually show up in retail stores and you don't have to try to wait outside in line at like 6 a.m. hoping you get a little number. And a lot of this has to do with several factors. The biggest one, though, is that miners for like crypto would become less interested because something like Ethereum is moving to proof of stake, and that is seemingly becoming more and more likely to happen in the coming months, which means you would see a lot of these miners who have stacked, warehouses full of video cards and just beating them into the ground, doing all these complicated equations, looking to offload all these video cards ahead of that happening when the prices would significantly drop, which means you'll see a surplus of supply come in and the demand for it would not be able to keep up, meaning that, yes, prices would start to fall. Couple that with the idea of the chip shortage starting to resolve towards the end of this year going into 2023. All of that would come together and hopefully get us to a point where video cards are much more manageable when it comes to their pricing, which is one of the reasons I'm going to tell you now, don't buy a video card in the next, I'm going to say 2 months. Just kind of keep an eye on the market, and I think we'll at least get to where we are within reason. 20 to 30% up from what we see MSRP would be considered almost a miracle at this point. So hold out just a little bit longer. I think we're gonna see these prices start to drop considerably here pretty soon. And in our last bit of news, let's talk about a new One Piece game. Now, look, I'm not at all into One Piece. I've never read any of the manga. I've never watched any of the anime, nothing like that. But I understand it's a very popular series. I also understand it hasn't really had any good game, like massively popular, like, all right, this is the best game in the series right here. In fact, most of the games I've seen are like mid to low on Metacritic and all of this, but this game even caught my eye to where I'm like, wow, that might actually be the game that people have been really waiting for. Take a look at this. This is called One Piece Odyssey. It was an announcement yesterday. It is coming in 2022 to the PS5, PS4, Xbox Series X and S, which they're leaving behind the Xbox One there, but keeping the PS4 interesting. I assume that's just obviously because Japan, it would make sense to have it on the PS4, but not necessarily the Xbox One. Anyway, and on PC, no Switch version announced now, but as we've seen with Bandai, they tend to bring these games to the Switch like a year or two later or something. But coming 2022, this looks like it's going to be a full adventure RPG, and I noticed it's being made by Ilka. Ilka, of course, made Pokemon Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl. So looking back, like I said, on Metacritic, the last One Piece game that I saw that was more adventure style and not just like an arena fighting game, which is typically what I've seen a lot of these end up defaulting to, was One Piece World Seeker. Came in at a 58 on Metacritic with a 4.5 user score. So hey, the bar isn't exactly high for this this RPG for One Piece Odyssey, but it looked pretty good in the trailer, I'll admit. I'm not even, like I said, a One Piece fan or viewer or anything like that, but I looked at it and I said, hey, that could actually be fun. So good news there. 2022 is just the year it's coming out. So in the next, like 8 months maybe, we'll have to keep an eye on this to see when they have a release date ready and just more information on the game, but certainly something to look forward to here for One Piece fans. And before we go to the comment of the day, we're gonna take a look at the poll that I posted up yesterday, where I asked, are you currently subscribed to PlayStation Plus? 57% said no, 43% said yes. So obviously I'm setting everything up here for the big grand reveal, the rumored reveal of Project Spartacus from Sony, where they're gonna merge PlayStation Plus and PlayStation Now. So it's closer to 50-50 for PlayStation Plus. It was a landslide for PlayStation Now, where no one was really signed up for it. And that was like 70 some odd thousand votes. And it was like 7% was signed up for Now. So when we get these Project Spartacus tiers, I'm gonna be curious to see where the votes fall then, because we're gonna see PlayStation Now most likely merged in with Plus, and can Sony figure out a way to get more than 7% on the tier that would normally be PlayStation Now? I guess we'll find out. And we'll finish up with the comment of the day, as you're seeing here. This is from Sam saying, remastered ports of the older Call of Duties would be pretty cool, but what I'd really like to see is a remastered collection of the old Medal of Honor games. EA seems to have forgotten all about that franchise though, unless you count that VR game that came out a couple years ago, and I don't. I did see some people say that the VR game was actually pretty fun. I think it's on the Oculus Quest 2, so maybe I'll check that out at some point, but you know, I wouldn't mind seeing that. I think the magic of Medal of Honor really wore off because they just threw so many Medal of Honor games at us there in like the mid-2000s. So like when Frontline came out, that was like 2002, that was mind-blowing. It was on like the PS2 at the time when that released, and it was like the first thing you did was storm the beaches. And then every year after that, there was another Medal of Honor game, to where I think we were just worn down from it. They tried to take a year or two break, and that didn't really go over too well, so maybe they could revisit Medal of Honor, but once Call of Duty came out and then Battlefield really took off, I just feel like Medal of Honor was never able to catch up and just kind of got left behind. But a remaster of some of those older ones, like Frontline and European Assault and Rising Sun, I'd be kind of interested to check out. And ladies and gentlemen, that's gonna do it here for Newswave. If you enjoyed this video, guys, hit that like button, it really helps out. If not, hit the dislike, leave comments down below about everything we talked about here today. It was Kirby and the Forgotten Land, off to a fast start with sales in the UK. Did you pick it up, and are you enjoying it? And then what about Knack 3? Could this trademark actually lead to something, or do you think Team Asobi's a bit busy with Asta right now? And then One Piece Odyssey. Is this the game you've been waiting for if you're a One Piece fan? Thanks guys for watching, and I'll see you next time.